Well, hello everyone. This new episode of the new year of Along the Seam. This is a cricket fix. My name is Vishwas. I would like to welcome everyone to the show and especially start wishing everyone a very happy new year. May 2014 be even better than 2013. Now on to the cricket. It's been a fantastic year, 2013. There was lots to look out for, lots of good cricket play around. We've lost a few players to retirement. And this episode really is talking about the year in review, look back at 2013, some of the important series, the Ashes, India's trip to South Africa, some of the players that are retired, and then talk about the finds of 2013, who we should look out for in 2014. So with that, I will say Happy New Year to my panel. It's been a while, fellas. Hey, Bharath, how's it going? Happy New Year, man.
Hey, Happy New Year, everybody.
Hey, Vijay, Happy New Year.
Hey, how's it going, man? Happy New Year, everybody.
Hey, Arpit, welcome back.
Happy New Year, everyone.
So let's start with the Ashes, fellas. We're down to the fifth Test match now, and England, as we know, are comprehensively being beaten 4-0. And the way the fifth Test match is going, it looks like they will be getting swept. There's more to that meets the eye. There's been a lot of players whose careers have been on the line. We've lost a few players to retirement in the middle of the series. Trott went back home. So let me recap. The first Test match, England played in Brisbane. They lost by 381 runs. They moved to Adelaide. They lost by 218 runs. Then England was in Perth, lost by 150 runs. The Boxing Day Test match in Melbourne, Australia won by 8 runs. So it's pretty clear that it's been very comprehensive defeats here, guys. And the fifth Test match now, England are trailing by 300. Australia still have 6 more wickets left, and all signs lead to the fact that they are going to lose this one. So to me, I'll start with Arpit. To me, when I look back at the series, I look back at the fact that Australia have played the same Test match in all 5 Test matches, and England, as of right now, have changed out 6 players from the first Test match they played. So there's a high turnover. What is going on, Arpit? Why is England such a big turmoil?
Well, it has part to do with the defeat, right? So whenever a team is losing, all the wheels come off the barrel or whatever, and I think what they're trying to do for the last test is basically they're trying to try out new players. I don't know if that made sense or not, but I think they're just trying out new players because everything is done. So one more test loss is not going to make or break anything for them at this point. Having said that, I think they should have still stuck to their core players, identified a set of core players and stuck to them. Now, obviously, having retirement mid-series does not help. But, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they are going to rebuild their team, hopefully. And hopefully, Andy Flower will still be there. But having said that, I mean, full marks to Australia. They played amazing cricket, especially Mitchell Johnson.
Right. So that's a good point, and let me take that to Bharath. Bharath, I mean, where did the wheels come off? This is the same England team that a few months ago in England comprehensively beat almost the same Australian team. Now this is a completely different unit, and Mitchell Johnson's bowling like he's the best bowler ever. Why the sudden change? Is it only to do with home and away?
That's a great point you're raising. So 2013 to me is a year defined by condition-specific, superiority of teams. Australia goes to England, loses comprehensively. Australia goes to India, loses comprehensively. In 2012, India went, to various countries and lost comprehensively. And so there is this the fact that there's no single number 1 team that's dominating Test cricket. We're seeing teams really perform very well under home conditions. So saying that, putting that in context, I think England has completely overreacted. I mean, honestly speaking, right now, Australia has the best bowling attack for Australian conditions. No denying that. These pacers are at you constantly. India, faced the heat the year before, and England's facing the heat right now. So, for a team that has a good balance of swing bowlers, seam bowlers, and spinners, are not going to do well in Australia. You need pacers who constantly seaming at you, use the bounce well. And the Australian team just has all those elements. And as a bonus, Nathan Lyon is bowling really well. So to me, losing the first two Test matches is big, and then after that, there's just this confidence factor that you kind of it really doesn't. It really takes a special effort from somebody, and it almost seems like collectively all the English batsmen are out of form. That doesn't help either. So I think there's overreaction. I think they should have still retained a significant part of the team. So I think that's a strategic mistake because eventually you should back these top class players to come back to form.
Yeah, and Vijay, you pointed out a good thing in the discussion yesterday, and that kind of leads me to you. There are a few deficiencies in the Australian team which are getting masked here because England are just not performing as well as they should. I mean, it's not like all the batsmen are firing on full cylinders. Just that what the lower order is rescuing them, and then England are just way below par. I mean, it's and the fact that folks like Ian Trott, who was the backbone of their batting lineup, goes home midway through the series, and Grant Swann, and we don't know what actually happened, but it is overreaction. What else? I mean, do you think it's I want you to talk about some of the deficiencies in Australia also. They're not completely
Well, actually, I mean, to carry on from Bharath's point, I actually have the same specific idea. I mean, it's been fascinating to see how different teams have sort of been going overseas and sort of like getting swamped by the opposition, the home team. And I found that very fascinating. I mean, India had the same problem, and Anyway, so getting back to this point, I think I mean, Australia's deficiencies are fairly significant. Shane Watson, I really don't know what's happening with him. He managed 100 earlier in the series, but he's been very, very iffy over the past couple of series. I don't know. I mean, I really can't pinpoint something down, but I do think England's deficiencies are so significant that the Australian team is being made to look far, far better than it really is. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they do against South Africa, because I think South Africa right now is, of course, a good team, and that I think I expect South Africa to beat Australia handily.
Yeah, and we'll get to the India-Australia South Africa series in a little bit. But Arpit, it's not all bad news for England. In my opinion, I'm extremely impressed by Ben Stokes. I think he's been the real find for England in this series. And Ian Bell, he's significantly guts to go out to Australia, score some good runs. Granted, he hasn't done well in the last couple of series. What's your take on some of the positives that England can take away from this series?
I think I was watching the game yesterday, and somebody mentioned that in fact Australia in the past 10 innings against England, they have not scored more than 300 in the first innings. They've scored only once more than 300 in the 10 innings. So that goes to say that the England bowlers are taking advantage of the conditions in the first innings, but after that, I don't know what happened. I think the batting is not clicking. Alistair Cook, I think he is kind of the leader for the team and with the bat, and if he scores, it's an entirely different English team, and he has not been performing, and I think that is one of the main reasons why English batting has not been holding its ground. They're getting early inroads.
Yeah, what about Ben Stokes? And are you impressed with that fellow? Do you think that's someone that they could hang on to in the long term?
I mean, it's too early to say, right? I mean, Irfan Pathan on his debut was great as well. So you see what he is right now. So I think one game does not a player make. So I think for what I've seen so far, I think he's okay. I mean, he's not. I mean, his pace is okay. He's not the fastest bowler in the world. He just was pitching in the right areas and he was just getting the wicket. So, but full marks to him though.
He handily outperformed Anderson and to an extent Broad too. So that's.
Well, you got to understand those guys have been playing cricket for so long. They might at the end of the series or whatever. Yeah. Those guys coming in fresh.
So Vishwas, can I ask you? You think this is a motivation issue? Too much cricket, as Arpit pointed out.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I agree with that.
Anderson was clearly frustrated in yesterday's game. Like every ball, you could see him. Like he was very frustrated. He used to kicking the ball. So I don't know what's going through the English team. I mean,
I think
more than a motivation issue, I think it's a momentum issue. But sorry, Vish, continue.
No, that's fine, I see what Bharath is coming from. In my opinion, I think the first test match or two, I think Bharath said earlier, really sets the tone for the series. And England, they had a couple of good sessions in the second test match, and it looked like they had a chance to do better, and they didn't. And I think wheels just started coming off. And if you lose a player like Ian Trott in the middle of the series who says, "Hey guys, I just can't do this anymore," Trott, and he said goes back home. It does affect the morale of the whole team, and it may just be too much cricket. You see in the fourth test match, the guys who did well are the guys who hadn't played much cricket. And that does say something. By that point,
I disagree with that. There's not too much cricket. I mean, they're professionals. They're paid to do that.
Fair enough.
I think that's all. I mean,
I think.
I mean, there's Dhoni plays the most amount of cricket, right? Of any player in the world. I mean.
Yeah, I think it has the biggest effect on bowlers. The 2 months because
they work out.
If the batsmen are done in 3 sessions, no matter how well you're bowling, it's hard to sustain it. So
and just so that we can let's move on to another topic. What I will say to summarize, and I do agree with all the points you guys said. I think they have gone overboard, and that's really what I want to try to get out of this forum is really they've gone too far with making all these changes, and there's too many people whose careers on the line for no reason. I mean, they're talking about Fowler, Andy Flower maybe getting sacked. There's some talk about Cook maybe stepping down. Right. So I just hope that they're able to regroup and go from there. I think it's just all the things that could have gone wrong have gone wrong collectively for them in this series. So with that, guys, let's move on to the you guys talking about South Africa and how South Africa is going to go to Australia soon, and that's going to be a very interesting series. So let's turn our heads to the series that finished. India played 2 test matches and 5 one-days in South Africa just now. They lost the one-day series comprehensively. The test match was close, but they did eventually lose it 1-0. So let's start with Arpit. What was your takeaways from that series?
Rohit Sharma's talent, how good he does overseas is I mean he came in the best form of his life with the Australia series, and I don't know how somebody with that talent can underperform so badly with just a change in
Rohit Sharma is a momentum player always. He's absolutely a momentum player, and the moment he loses a little bit of confidence, trust me, the guy is going to slide. He's a very good player. I think he's going to back him.
But that's where his talent should take over.
It's not about talent. All it takes is one ball. Man, to get dismissed. I don't know what Arpit was saying when Rohit Sharma was doing well. So
Yeah. I think South Africa. I think the greatest find we have is Cheteshwar Pujara, focusing on the positives. Again, we still need to take a look at our bowling. I don't think. Zahir Khan is the answer to our bowling woes. As you can see, we were not able to get South Africa all out in the first test, second innings. So some positives, but I think we should focus our efforts on bowling, and hopefully Ishwar Pandey coming in would help. I don't know, but I think bowling is an issue for us at this time.
So let's let me track back a little bit. Bharath, India lost the one-day series pretty badly. You would think that the Indian one-day unit is able to perform anywhere, and they are superlative in that form of the game. Are you surprised?
The same thing's going to happen to South Africa if they come to India, play no cricket, and they're straight taken to Wankhede on a turning pitch. So it's a planning issue to me. These guys are all professionals, but you can't just throw them in completely green, fast. So India did handle that kind of pitches in the test match pretty well. So to me, it's a question of lack of preparation.
Right.
And in terms of technique, I think this team is way better than the teams that we sent out in the 90s to South Africa.
Right. I think it's a very good point, and you're right. It was, there was no practice game. The one match that they were supposed to play in a practice match got rained out completely. They went, pretty cold. But, Arpit pointed to this, Vijay, earlier about how in the first Test match, India set a target of 450 to South Africa, and the way I saw it, India tried everything that they could do, but Du Plessis and De Villiers just played an amazing knock. The partnership was just incredible. Do you think that they could have done something else, or was it just a super game of cricket which ended, the fair way, which is a draw?
I think sometimes when you just get stuck into the bowling, and those guys have previously played, in similar situations, they have the self-belief, and ultimately, the Indians just couldn't get the one ball that they needed to, sort of like do something and get, maybe an edge or something.
Yeah.
But sorry, Bharath.
Yeah. So adding to that. I think it's a fundamental issue with Indian bowling. I think they're a very talented bunch, but you really need to take 5 strong bowlers in the team. We can't do this 4 bowlers thing. It clearly worked in the first innings when everybody's fresh, but the kind of workload, it's just too much. So to me, I think again I've made this point before. Dhoni's too conservative when it comes to test match cricket. And I think
perhaps the idea was that the batting wasn't probably up to the mark, against.
So that's a conservative outlook. In the end, Rohit Sharma's contribution was negative, right? Zeros in both games.
Right.
And under the right conditions, the Indian bowlers do really well. So this constant talk about the bowling attack not being good enough, I think a lot of flack is due to the captain and the conservative approach used.
So you guys have discussed most of what I wanted, but one of the takeaways for me in terms of positives, at least for India, was Rahane. You talk about India having to play an extra batsman and not play the extra bowler. I thought Rahane came off in
Rahane's temperament, was tested, and he played pretty well, I thought.
Right, and Arpit, we know what Pujara is. For the most part, we know what to expect from him. But there was a lot of question marks on Rahane, especially when he came in, failed in the one days, and they said, "Hey, let's try him in Test now." And I thought he came off pretty well, and he has a future. His temperament, he can play all the balls that are bowled at him, different pace, spin, everything.
The thing with Rahane is his place is not guaranteed in the team, so he's working hard to get his place in the team. Again, coming back to Rohit Sharma, I think he takes his place for granted for some time. That's how I feel. The way he comes and bats, the way he just plays loose strokes, it's like he plays a couple of games and then he knows he's in there for a long time. So I think Rahane batted amazingly well.
Yeah.
I think Rahane is going to be this generation's Vivas Lakshman, never guaranteed a spot inside. Always going to have a bunch of people at his heels.
So to wrap up this talk, this kind of topic, guys. So let's start with Bharath. What do you expect the South African team to do in Australia when they go there? I think it's in February. How do you think they'll perform with their bowling? They have the pace, they have the spin, they have the batting, they have all the tools that is required to be successful in Australia, which Australia is doing right now.
I disagree, actually. I don't think they have the spin bowler. That component's hugely lacking. And I think Steyn and Philander are going to be negated by lack of swing. So Morty Morkel to me is the key. And hopefully, the batting form hasn't been great. So we're really going to see the Kallis, the lack of Kallis, being there in Australia, because he adds this dimensionality that's going to be lacking. So I think they're going to struggle. I think they're overrated as the #1 team. Haven't been tested because last year they didn't play too many Test matches really. So I think they're going to struggle again.
What do you think, Arpit? I see Faf du Plessis, who has done incredibly well against India, in South Africa this time. He has shown that he can play international cricket in all 3 formats now.
Du Plessis was out of form for a long time, though. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that, just add to Bharath's point, is South Africa is really going to feel. So what the Kallis' absence? Kallis gave them luxury to either play an extra batsman or an extra bowler, depending on the conditions, because he was, we all know he's the best Test all-rounder. So I think on Australian conditions, I think Australia will come out top in versus South Africa. And I don't know how De Villiers' surgery, his hand surgery and stuff, how he recovers and how he comes back from that. That will be a thing to watch for. But the biggest thing is I think if JP Duminy has to perform now, he will be kind of look forward as the next Test all-rounder for them, at least in the short term, till they find somebody better. So it will be key to see how he performs. South Africa has been amazingly great for the past year and a half in terms of Test rankings. If you look at them, they're the top 2 batsmen, top 2 bowlers are from South Africa. Philander and Kallis are in the top all-rounder list. So, I mean, the rankings has some weights, and it's clearly showing on their overall team performance as well.
Yeah.
Well, I believe South Africa hasn't lost for several years overseas. I think it's about 6 7 years, something.
No, they lost against Pakistan last year.
UAE.
In
UAE,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, maybe they lost one season in 7 years. I can't remember. I remember
No,
seeing
they
a stat.
didn't lose a series though. They tied it. They had 1 loss and 1 win, so they did not lose a series.
Yeah, I'm saying they've not lost a series abroad,
Probably right.
overseas
Probably right.
for many years.
I've had this argument with a bunch of people, but I think South Africa 4 years back or 3 years back is very different from South Africa currently. A lot of their victory was really riding on the back of Hashim Amla,
Right.
who's been
Who was the form of his life, yeah.
Yeah.
who was in his form of his life and he's not, and Kallis. So until Amla steps up, or maybe Du Plessis takes up the place of Kallis in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting, and I don't think I'll disagree with what some of you guys were saying. Is that I think Philander, I see him very similar to what Ryan Harris is. He's consistent. He bowls in the right places. He'll get some swing. That's how he bowls. He's had success everywhere he's gone thus far. I think he's going to be great. And Steyn, I mean, he was just fantastic. It's the second Test match against India. He just blew the doors out and really was the difference why India lost that game, to be very honest with you. But yeah, it's